Welcome everyone to the Wednesday, February 7th Landmarks Preservation and Parks Committee meeting. We called the meeting to attention at 6:35 p.m. We're going to go ahead and get the meeting started. Welcome everyone. Let's see, are there any committee meetings that are online right now that if you could please identify yourself that you're online, that would be helpful. We're just trying to check to see if we have a quorum. Any committee members online? Okay. So there are 4 committee members in person. I'm Heather Jason, one of the co-chairs. We have Alyssa, we have Patricia, and we have Liz. Thank you for coming in person. To be respectful of everyone's time, we're going to go ahead and get the meeting started. And for the committee members that are here, is there anyone who wants to volunteer to take the minutes for today? Or if not, we'll have to do it as a group within the next week or so. Okay, Leslie Wright, I see that you're online. Thank you so much for coming. You can provide your announcements. Thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure. This is always one of my favorite meetings, so thank you for having me. I just want to call out John Harold because there he is with his background. That's the view from Denny Farrell Riverbank State Park and our fabulous park neighbor downstairs, Riverside Park. So great to be here. Lots going on at the park. We'll be sure to forward all the flyers and get them posted. Thanks to Yutha. Thank you very much for that, Yutha. We have started some new programs, Art in the Park, focused on families and kids, pretty much every weekend. We're continuing with our senior socials, of course, movie nights, and something that's turned out to be very popular, open mic nights, a couple times a month, 6 to 9 or so on Saturday evenings. And it's any kind of performance you wish, as long as it's family friendly, whether it's stand-up comedy, singing, karaoke, dance, monologue, you name it. We've been hosting upwards of 200 people for this, so it's Harlem's finest homespun talent. I'm also happy to say that the park is now the home for the foreseeable future of the monthly Harlem Arts Alliance town hall meetings, where all the art and culture based Harlem based arts groups come and just share information with one another about what's going on. That we host that in our theater, and we had the kickoff just 2 Saturdays ago. Very well attended, 200 folks, dozens of different groups. So hats off to Harlem Arts Alliance for the fantastic work they do. We're thrilled to have them in the park. Uh, our aquatics locker room and reception area renovation is right on track. It'll be done by summer. Much to everyone's dismay, our striped indoor changing cabanas will be a thing of the past, but they were a very good run for all of our swimmers while they lasted. Um, we're gearing up for 2 additional big capital projects in the park, both slated to start in early fall. We're renovating the north stair and elevator tower that goes from the park level down to the parking lot and the beautiful Riverside Park. That'll kick in the fall and last for a number of months. As well as more work in the aquatic center. We're redoing our entire pool filter room. So in coming meetings, I'll let you know more about those things. If there's time, Heather, I'd be happy to answer any questions and really, again, appreciate the opportunity to talk about this magnificent park.
Great. Are there any questions for Leslie Wright? Do you have any questions? Thank you so much, Leslie. We look forward to hearing about the capital projects that you have scheduled for the fall.
My pleasure. Hope to see you all in the park.
Yes, and we appreciate your continued participation. And I just want to say that I went on a tour a couple of weeks ago with the new parks director, Jared, which was excellent. So
I heard. That's great.
so
So
much
happy to
for-
have you there.
yeah, thanks for hosting us. All
Sure.
right, any last call, any other questions for River State Park? Thank you so much. Is Leslie, is Mallory Craig on? Oh, there's a hand. We have Carl. Go ahead, Carl. If you have a question. There's Carl R.
Yes,
with a right
I
hand.
have a question. Is there anything in the works in the near future to maybe kind of set up a auditorium so people could like display their talents? Because there's a lot of talents that are go unnoticed in the community, and I feel that the auditorium is perfect, so they could show them talent shows to the kids. And has that a thought yet, or?
So, Carl, that's exactly what our open night mics are at Denny Trail Riverbank in the theater, in the cultural theater. Um, so if you go online to the park's website, you'll find all the dates. We'll also be getting that information to CB9 so that it can be posted there. Also in the park's lobby, all the flyers are posted. But we do that once, twice a month, every month, and they've
And
proven
where
very popular.
you said where in the what part of the park?
We hold it in our theater. It's an auditorium. It's
Oh, it's in a
inside. It's
theater.
just in the main cultural building. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. But is there something outdoors? Is there something
Uh,
in the works of doing something outdoors that's not
not at
indoors, but
present.
outdoors
No.
with the sun and the air, and we can see the river and the bridge, and everybody outside and having a good time, summer, spring. Indoors could be sometimes a little, a lot of people don't like to be indoors.
It is a park after all. So I hear you loud and clear. I'll pass that message on to the park. We're always open to new programming.
Yeah. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you.
Because I know they have it in Marcus Garvey, right? They have an auditorium.
I think that you're the word amphitheater is the word that comes to mind. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amphitheater. Yeah.
So our amphitheater at Riverbank is not it needs to be fully renovated before we can use that, but there are possibly other areas in the park that could be used. So thank you for the idea.
Yeah, because I know there is a new construction going on over there in 155th. I mean, they're building a bridge, and I think there's like a bar in the works. I mean, that would be a good spot to have, local bands come out and play, and something that's not affiliated with a business, but just really, something they want to do for the community, and.
Thank you, Carl. Would you please make sure that you sign into the chat and provide us with your affiliation? Is this your first time to our meeting?
No, I know a couple of members.
Oh, okay, so
I'm in the community. I'm in the community from the community, raised in the community, still live in the community.
Okay, welcome. Just please sign
Thank
into
you.
the chat
Thank you for welcoming me.
and provide me, if possible, with your email address so that we can keep you posted on the upcoming events. Thank you so much. Okay.
All right, you're welcome.
Okay, is Mallory Craig on?
Yes. Hi. Am I coming in clear?
Yes. Hi, Mallory.
Hi there. Thank you for having me today. So I am, as I am speaking, just hitting enter. So all the information that I'm going to share, there's kind of the links in there. So over at the greenhouse, not too far from the cultural center, a few steps away, we are gearing up for spring already. And this month, just to give you all our programs that I know we've shared before are still going strong in the winter, and we'll continue them in spring, which starts, our spring season starts in March. But until then, this February, we're celebrating Black History Month all month long in our family pharmacy program. So that's every Saturday from 10:30 to 12, all ages, family friendly, free drop-in. Last weekend, we celebrated the life and work of George Washington Carver. This weekend, we'll celebrate the life and work of Annie Von Reed, and we're each Saturday we're going to be looking at a Black botanist or horticulturalist and how they've shaped our history in terms of plants and gardening. And so we'll be working with flowers this Saturday, as Annie Von Reed did many things for how we understand flower morphology, or the shapes of flowers. And one that I'm very excited about is the next weekend. We'll be looking. It actually is also World Wetlands Day, so we're going to be looking at the Great Dismal Swamp and the rich history there of folks who sought freedom through the Great Dismal Swamp, and we'll be looking at the rich habitat of wetlands and also through the lens of the Underground Railroad, and creating some herbalism products that is a nod to that. So those are our Saturdays. Again, we have free public programming. I left the link for you all. Tonight, there is a sensory alchemy class tomorrow night for art making. Come on by 5 p.m. We're getting started again with kind of a sensory alchemy, exploring our senses and working with specific plants. I think it's lavender tomorrow. And all of our senses is being awakened, and then that'll follow up with a artful seeding workshop. So we're going to begin seeding, which is another update I have for you. We've ordered our seeds over here at the greenhouse, and so we're so excited to welcome folks to come check out the seeds. If you want to geek out, if you want to learn a little bit about or take out some seeds from our seed library, if you want to look at our learning garden plans or what we'll be seeding, just come and visit, and maybe you could join us in some of the many seeding we'll be doing. And which brings me to in late March, which I know we'll meet again before then, and I'll have the exact details for you, but save the seasonal date. We're going to be having a seed celebration and welcoming you all. We'll have lots of giveaways, we'll have food, we'll have art, we'll have games, and that info will come in March, but you can again look to that website that I dropped. One last note is that I just want to share, I know a lot of teachers, we're hitting kind of like some testing times and professional development, and lots of teachers and parent coordinators usually like to get out of school at that time. This is a reminder that the greenhouse offers free field trips to all schools in CB9. So spread that to your kids' schools, anyone you know. Again, the field trips are free. You'll see in the link to CB9 schools. I should add that caveat. It's not for we do have pretty affordable prices if you want to share with other folks. But please visit that link that says the explorable places there, and you can kind of see some of our field trip offerings. We're also welcome to kind of work within your existing curriculum. And then the last news I have is that we are launching our spring hort greenhouse internship for high school age young people, and which will continue to be on Fridays, and we're going to be launching that. We're going to be starting in early March. So again, there's an email if you would like more information on that. It's on the hort.org website, but also if you want to reach out to me specifically about signing up for young people in high school age for signing up for that. That would be fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mallory, and thank you for the plants for the other week when we visited the greenhouse on the tour.
Oh yeah.
Thank you. So next is Alex or anyone from the New York City Parks Green Thumb Community Gardening Program. Okay. We had a great meeting with them last week. So we'll move forward. Is Wesley Hamilton on? Or unless I'm sorry, were there any questions for Mallory? Any questions for Mallory
I hate to go back.
at the greenhouse and community gardens?
No, but could we go back to the one for Riverbank Park? I wanted to ask, I didn't hear anything for any special events for Black History.
Leslie's still on. Did you hear the question, Leslie?
I did, and I'm glad you asked. I realized that I omitted that. Yes, we do have a number of events. We have a film series. We have the production of the meeting, the conversation between. Oh, I'm gonna mangle this. I need to get the flyer. It's the important meeting, I think, between Malcolm X and could it be Martin Luther King? And I really apologize. Yes, Martin Luther King. Thank you, Mallory. And that date is coming up, and I'll be sure to get it to publicize out to this group. But that's, again, that'll be in our theater. So there's plenty of room for everybody. We have 800 seats.
Wow.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah, good question.
Is there anything other than that? And can you send your flyers to, is that to you though?
She sends it to you and then we disseminate it.
Good.
Mhm.
Yeah. So films and the production and all the regular stuff too.
Apologies for interrupting, but Danny Farrell also does a really nice job on their social media, Instagram, and I'm sure other platforms. So for those who are curious about keeping up, recommend you give them a follow. You'll get a copy of those flyers and other activities as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, good question. Okay, was Wesley Hamilton on? Oh,
Hey,
there you are, Wesley. Hey.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. How you doing? Yes, I'm Wesley Hamilton in New York City Parks Department, Riverside Park. And not a lot of updates, but just a few brief things. Our crews are getting prepared, and we're doing a lot of planning for spring and summer. I know it's February, but happy to have a little bit of snow, but we're really glad to move on to spring and summer. At least I am myself. It's so great to hear people talking about getting seeds and starting that. So we too are planning that. We're looking at our horticultural programs this spring and the summer, and how we're going to maintain the parks this summer. I'd also like to mention, I'm going to let other people kind of jump in there a little later, but now is a great time to look for volunteer opportunities. We have lots of opportunities with the Parks Department, both at Riverside and throughout the district. So if you like to do any volunteer projects, now's a great time to plan them while it's February, and then you can be ready to go in the spring. For Riverside, I'm going to direct you to Stephanie, who is, I believe, online. Will be speaking after me, and later for the remainder of the District 9, Matt Ginrich is online, and he'll probably give you some more information. But just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. Now is a great time to prepare and get ready for that. One bit of information I got, and I believe John's on the line as well. So if we have any questions with him, we can touch base with him. But unfortunately, the steps at 148, and if you're not familiar with that, that's a stairway that goes from 10 Mile Playground to Palisades Playground on Riverside Drive at 148. Unfortunately, our engineers and our blacksmith and everybody's looked at it, and we've tried to fix it. But unfortunately, it has exhausted its age span there. So we're going to have to, unfortunately, close that area down, which may make some issues for people who utilize that area frequently. And for those people who do that, we would encourage them to go north to 151 and use the new Danny Farrell Bridge, or to go south and go to 145 and go into Riverbank State Park and use the stairwell there to get down to the ground level and go into the park. So you'll still be able to access 10 Mile. It just won't be quite as convenient. And we're working diligently to try to get funding and get that area repaired and improved as soon as possible, but it may be some time. So we're looking at a closure in that. With that, that's pretty much all the updates I have right now. If anybody's got any questions, I'll try to address them or look into anything for anybody if I can.
Can you just repeat the closure area again? The exact location?
Yeah, it's the bridge that, and the steps that lead from 148, which is just behind Palisades Playground, and leads to 10 Mile Playground. So at 148, the steps leading down to the bridge that crosses over Amtrak into 10 Mile Playground.
Okay, thank you. Okay, are there any questions we have a question, go ahead.
Those steps that are falling apart. The Romans made step lasted 1,000 more years. How old are these steps? And are they to be replaced with the same material that only made them last 50 years? Or less?
Good evening. I'll take that. I'm John Harold. I'm the Riverside Park Administrator. It's nice to be here. Leslie, if you are still here, thank you for the shout out before. I wanted to join my colleagues, Wes Hamilton and Stephanie from the Conservancy. Is that Ira asking?
Yes, hi, John.
Hi, Ira. So yes, the Romans did things that lasted quite a while. These stairs are 85 years old, a little bit more, 87 years old. They're from the expansion of the park and the west side back in the 1930s. They are steel and there has been quite a bit of rust. And when they are restored, we will certainly think about, is there a material that could last 2,000 years? But in the meantime, it'll probably be a recreation of what is there now, but brand new.
Thank you.
Who are we speaking to here? Who's that on the line?
John Harold. John Harold.
John, hi, Patricia Caldwell. I just happened to, I'm very familiar with those steps. As a matter of fact, I'm one of those people who went down into the park back in the day. And I see, even though we would like to restore those steps that go down to 148th Street into the old Riverside Park where they play paddleball, they used to have paddleball courts there. I would think that for the people that do use that, and there are a lot of people that have waited patiently for that to be fixed. Even though I have a young lady here, Miss Claudette, who is with the Harlem Save Now. She's very interested in preserving our history and architecture. Maybe
So are
she
we.
would like, yeah.
So are we.
But- Yeah.
I actually just came to introduce myself.
We'll
and
take
very much-
announcements after we get through the
Very much
announcements.
No, she's responding to the steps on 148th
Are you
Street.
speaking directly about the steps?
I'm not speaking directly about the
Okay.
steps. I'm just coming to sort of get an idea of what's happening.
Thank
Just
you
started-
thank you so much for coming.
So.
And again, anyone
so
else
I
who
just
has
wanted to know,
arrived,
do you
please,
have-
one second, just
Is there
please
an
make sure
ETA?
make sure that you sign into the chat. Okay.
John, is there an ETA for to repair these steps on 148th Street?
Would you just repeat the question?
I know you said it's, like you want to repair the steps, but you cannot. Is there some type of, plan B or where those steps will be repaired? Do you have an expected time that, a limitation of time when that you will have those steps in repair? Project completion.
I have learned paint the hard way not to predict that. We only yet today were told that we couldn't make immediate repairs, and that was why we closed it. As far as a long-term capital project, that is a long-term project, as you know. And in the meantime, if there's a way that we can get it back open on an interim basis, we will do that. But as I say, this has just come up in the last 24 hours. So
Okay,
I don't have as much information as I would like.
okay. Well, thank you. I look forward to hearing from you again.
And thank you for that timely information. Shannon, I see your hand raised. Go ahead with your question.
Thanks. It'll just take a minute. I wanted to also offer to the Honorable Reverend Caldwell. I've been following the developments within Riverside Park through my involvement with the dog run for a number of years now. And I did want to point out, I believe Riverside Park a number of years ago was transparent in their concerns around the stairs and the bridge at 148, which in part was spurred their development of the new bridge that's up at 151. That's simply 3 blocks north. It's not too far away. So there is continued access to the park, newer, safer, wider. And then 3 blocks south of 148, there, of course, as was just mentioned by Danny Farrell Riverbank, there's the stairwell tower and the elevator, which also provides ADA access to the park. So while I'm sure the inconvenience to 148 may be recognized, there are adjacent access points that meet all kinds of needs of accessibility and whatnot that might meet yours and the community's needs as well, while the inconvenience is addressed.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I think we may have a quorum. I think we have, 5 members in person. And we may have a quorum now, so I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order at 7:02 PM. Okay. And can I get a motion to adopt the agenda and minutes?
I make a motion that we adopt the agenda and minutes.
Is there a second?
I second.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so that was Patricia and April to. Okay. Were there any changes or adjustments to the agenda? Okay. All right, any,
Putting something on the agenda, but I didn't get a response.
okay, and you are,
I'm Adam Fields.
are you just going to make an announcement or do you have a presentation?
I'd like to propose a resolution in support of the farmer's market.
Okay, we will, when we get to in the announcements and the updates, we'll try to hear you at that point.
Great.
Okay, did you sign in?
Yes.
And then you put your, organization in the sign in? Well, just put the organization that you're representing, just so that we can make a note, all right? Okay, thank you so much, and you're Adam?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Stephanie, Riverside Park, are you on?
Hi, y'all. Thank you so much to John and Wes for the announcement about 148th. Looking forward to kind of more love in that area in general. We've partnered with the High School of Math, Science, and Engineering, HSMSE, to start a monthly partnership with the Ralph Ellison Island in the 150s, 151. So excited to have some love there from some high schoolers in the area, as well as starting a new partnership with the community, hopefully, to do some trash pickup and weeding and just general maintenance in the area around 143 to 145. So I'll be hanging up some flyers in the community probably by next week. So look out for that. I'll put my email, my phone number in the chat if anybody is interested in any volunteer opportunities in the park. As Wes said, we are always looking for volunteers. I'm the volunteer coordinator for the northern section of the park from 120th to 181st Street. So if anybody's involved in any areas, in the park, feel free to reach out to me. And again, I'll put my info in the chat in a second. But yeah, some love in the 140s and 150s, hopefully coming soon. And last, 2 more things. We are starting up Teen Corps again. It is a youth internship, kind of like the Hortz internship, which is awesome that we have so many options to choose from. But it is a summer youth internship for high schoolers, specifically in Community Board 9, must reside in Community Board 9. That application is live. It just became live 2 days ago. So for any high schoolers who want to have a paid internship this summer, in July and August, hit me up. Again, I will put that info in the chat. But very, very excited for that. The internship, the stipend will be $1,000 at the end of the summer in August. Lastly, we are partnering with Latino Outdoors, New Yorkers for Parks, and Grow NYC to have a parks advocacy event on February 27th. We do not have the flyer yet for that, but we will soon. It will be located at the Field House on 101st Street. It's kind of into the park, so when you get to 101st Street, you just have to kind of keep going until you can't go anymore. Into the park. And it'll be a great day where we'll have Latino Outdoors, Riverside Park sustainability team who work a lot on compost initiatives, Grow NYC and New Yorkers for Parks. They're tabling in both Spanish and in English. About ways that we can be involved in advocacy work for community composting and for 1% for parks. Very excited because on a personal note, I'm a volunteer with Latino Outdoors. So I'm kind of doing this for my volunteer gig as well as for my work at Riverside Park, which is cool to kind of combine. So that's on February 27th from 2 to 4. And that was a lot. So I'll put my email in the chat. Hit me up if you have any questions, comments, concerns, fun facts, jokes, anything like that.
And please, any of your announcements that are quick that you can also put in the chat, and any links, this is for everyone, please do so because we do follow the chat closely and it helps us as we prepare the minutes after the meetings. And we can refer back to some of the things that you say, and that's very helpful to us and to the community as we try to spread the word and get the word out about your various events. So we really appreciate all of you and your participation. So are there any questions for Stephanie and and also the link, you said that it's up for the high school, the internship program. So please make sure that you put that in the chat too as well, if you have that available. And so any questions for Stephanie? Anyone? Great. Thank you so much for being here. So the Friends of St. Nicholas Park, I think, is next. Karen, welcome. Nice to see you. We've missed you the last couple of months or so.
Yeah, I was going to say, I apologize for missing the last, I think, 1 or 2. I've been out of town assisting a family member who's been in the hospital and getting treatment. So I'm still out of town. So I'm missing my New York City parks dearly, but I'm happen to be in Chicago and there are some lovely parks here. So I've been taking a lot of photographs and getting some brainstorming ideas for parks back home. So that's been good. So we're really I'll be really quick because we're really basically in our quiet season, sort of the dormant season, since we have no indoor space. And we're just right now planning and thinking about programming for the coming year, starting in April, because our programming season really runs kind of for our work from April till about December with the tree lighting. So we're working on that. If anybody has any ideas, please reach out and be in touch. Also, if you have interest in, as everyone's mentioned, planning volunteer activities come spring, be in touch because the time goes very quickly and it's good to get that planned ahead. Or if you're interested in becoming more involved in the Friends of St. Nicholas Park, we always have opportunities for people who want to do more than just sort of a one-off volunteer or regular volunteering. So if you're interested, we're always happy to add to our ranks of leadership as well. And so aside from that, the only thing I wanted to mention other than that was that I actually attended this morning a really interesting program put on by the Center for Urban Future. And it was a program that was centered around the report that they issued, which was called Paying for the Growing Needs of NYC's Parks, 20 Fresh Ideas to Fund Parks and Open Spaces. And I'm sure probably there were some other people in this group that may have been on that. But it was a really informative program that lasted a couple of hours, and the Commissioner of Parks was on, the Chair of the City Council, Parks Committee was on, and I'm going to just drop a link to the report in the chat so people can.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thanks for providing that information, and please do put it in the chat. Go ahead, Karen.
There it is. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All I have, unless anybody has questions.
History Month. Any plans?
No, unfortunately, since we're all outdoors, we don't program on until the weather starts to warm up because we don't have any facilities for that. But always happy to brainstorm, maybe, way in the future.
Thank you so much. Any other questions for St. Nicholas Park? Do we have Brad on for Morningside Park? I don't think I saw him today.
Remember, he's away.
Oh, he's away. Okay, that's right.
Not available.
Sorry, I missed that. Okay, great. So if there aren't any other questions, then Matt, go ahead, Matt. I think I saw you on.
Hi, everyone, and good to see you, Karen, as well, and everyone else. Welcome back. And so I've got a few announcements. We learned recently that the 1/12 concessionaire work in Morningside Park on the building there will be starting here. They're going to mobilize a work zone starting Friday and then start working on renovating the bathrooms at the 1/12 Park House in Morningside Park starting next week. The bathroom renovation is expected to take about 3 months, and then the rest of their overall concessionaire work will take a total of 6 months. So they should be, bathrooms should be back in order and ready to go here sometime this spring, and then the concessionaire will start up this summer if all goes as planned. So we've been waiting a while for that to get going, so we're happy for it to start. We also will be the construction.
And Matt, that's 1/12 and what? Can you just give the
1/12
cost?
1/12 and Manhattan Ave. It's
Oh,
the that plaza area right above the ball field, and then there's a restroom below that plaza that they'll be the concessionaire as part of the agreement is renovating the bathrooms there.
okay, thanks. Go ahead.
And then other construction news, the hand railing will be starting this March in Morningside Park. So we're looking forward to that getting off the ground. And Karen, I don't know, since you've been out of town, you probably haven't seen the new pathways in St. Nicholas Park as of yet that were done maybe a month or two ago. So when you get back, you'll have to check them out.
Yeah, I saw them very briefly when I was back for 2 days over Christmas, so that was good. I do have a couple of follow-up questions, but
we're still waiting for some pipe rail to be completed and fixed at the 141st entrance, as well up by the 139th staircase. So that work is still yet to be complete.
Just a quick question, because maybe others have this too. Because I remember from the presentation, I thought they were going to do this, some of the stair pads of that connecting area. I think kind of right where that pipe railing has to be repaired, I think. And when I saw it, it was still broken. I don't know if there was any plan to fix that or that couldn't get into the scope of work.
So the staircase at 137th and 140th that we were hoping to get done was too complicated for the work. They did some staircase work at 136th. They replaced the landing treads there, and then there's a small staircase along the lower path about like 138th. So they did some staircase work there, but unfortunately, the other staircases are going to have to come through alternative funding, which I believe we're definitely working on.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Longer conversation we'll have offline. Great. Thank you.
Yeah. And then the other announcement that I have, I'd like to introduce Tapashi. She's our new historic Harlem Park administrator. So it's great to have her on board. For this meeting, she oversees Morningside and St. Nicholas Park. But in the District 10 and 11, she's got Marcus Garvey and Jackie Robinson as well. So I'll kick it off to her, and then if anyone has any questions for us, we can circle back to that.
So I'm not sure, did we miss Brad's update? Or is Brad on the call?
He's not on the call today. He's away.
Okay. So Matt stole my introduction, but my name is Tapashi Narayan. I'm the new Historic Harlem Parks Administrator. Jana moved north. She moved north to become the Northern Manhattan Park Administrator, which is north of 155th Street. Matt already mentioned my parks, specifically in Community Board 9, that's St. Nicholas and Morningside Parks. Karen, you'll be happy to know there is actually a Black History Month activity in St. Nicholas Park. We have the New York City Park Rangers are hosting a historic Black Women of Harlem on February 25th. And that's what we have for right now. Hopefully in the future we'll have more.
Where is that going to be?
Get that up for you.
St. Nicholas.
No, I know, but where in the park?
The park. And what time?
Give me 1 second. It is on 135th Street and St. Nicholas Avenue.
Okay, so
and it is from 1 to 2:30 p.m.
Great.
If you could just email me that flyer or whatever you have, we'll definitely push it on our social media.
Perfect.
That'd be great.
Perfect.
Is that you who's speaking?
No, that's Karen asking. Go ahead, Tapashi.
Yes, and as it relates to Morningside Park, construction on the 113th Street handrails and landing will begin on or about March 4th.
Great.
And I wanted to address the sign question that Brad had. So typically our New York City Parks has been trying to reduce the number of signs in all of our parks throughout the whole entire city, because most signs are, well, all of our signs are subjected to weathering and frequent vandalization. Speaking of which, we had a historical sign which referenced the 1968 protest, but that was damaged, and we were in the process of replacing it. Today we installed one of the replacement signs that references the protests on 123rd Street and Morningside Avenue. Tomorrow another one will be installed at 114th Street and Morningside Ave. I've been in communication with the Friends of and MCB9 regarding a sign to commemorate the protests. The review process is first Park Sign Committee, Landscape Preservation Committee, and then the Public Design Commission. Since the first step is the Parks Committee, I recommend the Friends of groups and Community Board 9 get in contact with Jonathan Kuhn, who's from New York City Arts and Antiquities. And I believe Jonathan also emailed Annette and Brad about this already.
He spoke to us earlier and we received your email, and so we'll follow up and reach out to him.
Okay.
Again.
Okay. Sounds good. Let me know if you need any.
Yeah, our meeting was simply to make you aware that was one of our interests. And so we'll refer back to him.
Okay, sounds good.
But thank you for sitting with us.
Okay. Anything else? Do we have any other? And it's so nice for you to be at our meeting today, Tapashi. Thank you so much. Or did you have any other updates or announcements?
That's it for me for right now.
Black History programs. Okay.
I'll put the Black History Month event in the chat.
Great. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any other questions?
Contact information.
Oh, someone is asking Tapashi for you to put your contact information in the chat.
Yes, I can do that.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for watching the chat for me. I'm trying to do too many things at once. So everyone, thank you so much. Okay. Wow, so we're moving right along.
Yes.
Then, are there any other questions then for Matt too while we're on? Either or any other parks questions? If not, then we'll move on for our presentation from New Yorkers for Parks. And, oh, I see you, Charisse. Let's see, the presentation, let's see. I know you sent me.
Sure, you have another direction.
Did you want me, did you want me to pull up the presentation, Charisse, or do you want to present it? You want me to give you co-hosting ability so that you can share your screen?
Yeah, I have the share screen button here, so I can just share it because I have it up.
Good.
Okay, let me see if I can make you a co-host. Okay. And
Can you see my screen?
no, not yet.
Not yet.
And everyone has the agenda that Charisse is from New Yorkers for Parks. We can, because we're beginning to see your screen now.
Okay. Hi, everyone.
And welcome and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm Charisse Palomino. I'm the Director of Advocacy and Programs here at New Yorkers for Parks. And we are the only independent citywide organization that's advocating for quality parks and open spaces for all New Yorkers. We've been doing this work for over 100 years. We do it through our community relationships and partnerships. We do it through advocacy and through research. We have a coalition that we co-founded called Playfair for Parks. It's over 450 groups and organizations that work with us to champion our 1% for Parks campaign. Our coalition was co-founded by us, the New York League of Conservation Voters, and DC 37. And we work very closely with the city council member, Shekhar Krishnan, who is the chair of the Parks Committee. These are the list of all the organizations that are part of the Playfair Coalition, and they're also available on our website. So to just give you a little brief example of our research, we last year around this time, we released a 1% for Parks impact report. And our campaign, our advocacy campaign, 1% for Parks, is asking for 1% of the city budget to be allocated to the Parks Department. It's not a huge ask. It's an ask that we've been making for almost a quarter century. Most of the city council supports it. The mayor campaigned on it. He promised to meet this deliverable by the end of his first term, and we're very far from it. So we have this research report that talks about what 1% would actually mean to New Yorkers. We also have an open space profile, which is by every community board. So you can see here, this is Manhattan Community Board 10, and it really outlines, you know, access and accessibility to all of the parks and open spaces in your district. And I mentioned our 1% for Parks campaign. I'm here today because I'm going to talk about the 1% ask and the state of the Parks Department given the budget crisis that we were experiencing, but then was restored. So just to give you some history of how we got to where we are. In the 1970s, that was the last time the Parks Department received over 1% of the city's operating budget. Then the fiscal crisis hit in the late 70s and the Parks Department's budget was cut in half. Today, the Parks Department's budget remains at just 0.6% of the city budget. The Parks Department's budget is $638 million out of a $107 billion budget. This next slide shows the growth of the city agencies since 1980. So you can see that all the city agencies have, these city agencies have grown their budgets by more than 120%, while the Parks Department's only grown by 72%. The overall city expense budget is by 127%. New York City spends less on our parks than any other major city. When we think about New York, people oftentimes think about skyscrapers and referring to us as a concrete jungle, not knowing how much green space New York has. As you look at this chart, when you think about a city like Los Angeles, New York City has double the park space. Los Angeles spends 2.9% of their city budget on parks, and they have 16,000 acres of parklands, while New York City has double that at 30,000 acres of parklands, and we spend 0.6% of our budget on parks. When you talk about park staffing and the population of New York and the amount of parks users that are going into our green spaces, in 1967, the population was 7.4 million, and we had over 9,000 park workers. Today, we have just over 8,000 park workers, and the population has grown to 8.7 million. San Francisco and Chicago have one gardener for every 18 acres of parklands, while New York City has one gardener for every 114 acres of parkland. Our Parks Department is operating at bare bones, and we need to make sure that we are fighting for adequate funding for the Parks Department. When we look at our rec centers and we look at the staffing and the funding of the rec centers, in the 1970s, the rec centers were receiving $56 million. Today, they're receiving about 35 million. So there has been a significant decrease in the investment of our recreation centers in New York City. In terms of staffing, in 1978, they had over 750 staff, and now they have less than 450 staff. And this is a data point we like to give as context. New York City spends just on overtime for the NYPD $670 million in FY22, and the Parks Department budget was $618 million. So we did some surveys and we pulled some data from last year's preliminary mayor's management report, and 85% of park stewards say that they've seen an increase in their park usership in the last 3 years. COVID had highlighted for us the critical infrastructure that parks are, that people need parks, they need their open spaces. And so we've seen consistent attendance and participation in usership in parks. 70% of our park stewards record that there's an increase in usership outside the traditional busy season, which is spring and summer. 53% said that visitors express safety concerns in their parks. 29%, according to the mayor's management report, there's a 29% increase in crimes in the first 4 months of FY23, and then crimes against property, such as vandalism, in the first 4 months of FY23. So what does 1% of the city budget mean for parks? It would give us a 21st century park system. We would have a clean and well-maintained parks throughout the year, safe parks with staff, building relationships with community members, quick repairs, avoiding longer closures, and ensuring accessibility. And we would have comprehensive access to 10,000 acres of natural areas and trails. We'll have protected vulnerable wetlands in our current climate crisis. We'll have cleaner air and heat relief provided by a protected urban forest. We'll have faster responses from 311 calls for trees. And there will be more and free cultural and recreation programs for New Yorkers of all ages. And then it will improve safety conditions for workers. And one thing that we do know is the benefits of our parks. $1.1 billion there's in reduction in health costs. For the environmental impacts, the benefits, it's $681 million in stormwater diversion and carbon capture. And tourists spend $17 billion annually in parks across the country and $600 million in recreation in parks across the country annually. So we know how insignificant and important our parks are. And again, I mentioned the mayor supports 1% for parks. He campaigned on it. He said he was going to get us there. And we are still very far from 1%. We have 44 council members, including Council Member Abreu. Just yesterday, or just today, Council Member Yusuf Salam signed on to our 1% pledge. So we have almost every council member. There's a few who we're still waiting to hear back from, but this is a nonpartisan issue. Everyone supports parks. Everyone knows our parks needs more funding. Everyone knows that there's significant delays in construction, that we need to make sure that there's staffing, that there's opportunities for people to have solid careers in the Parks Department, that we have cleaning and maintenance of all of our parks. We have a petition that's garnered over 15,000 signatures demanding 1% of the city budget for parks. So how can your community board support? We would love to get a letter of support from your community board. I'll follow up with an email asking you to sign and share our petition. And we also have a letter, so I'd ask you to sign your name onto the letter to the mayor saying no new cuts to parks, and to attend our rallies. And why is this so important? This is really important because when the mayor announced a 5% budget cut in November, he announced it for 5% across the board. And that's not an equitable way to manage a budget. 5% of the Parks Department is a significant sum of money versus 5% of any of these city agencies that have significantly higher budgets. Last month, the mayor restored a lot of the budget cuts that were implemented in the November plan. And one of the wins that the mayor touted was the restoration of the POP program. So the POP program is the Parks Opportunity Program that is a workforce development program for low-income New Yorkers that gives them an opportunity to develop a career and trade in the Parks Department. And that program has about 1,400 staff. So we were facing very significant and steep cuts if we were going to lose the POP program. The POP program is housed under HRA since it's a workforce development program. So in order for HRA to meet that 5% cut in November, they had proposed to eliminate POP. So thankfully that program was restored last year and those 1,400 workers still have jobs. The challenge is the Parks Department's actual budget wasn't restored. The Parks Department's budget still has a 5% deficit because the restoration of POP was not part of the Parks Department's budget. So with this 5% budget cut that the Parks Department's still facing, even though other city agencies had some restorations to their overall budget, this means for the Parks Department that they've lost over 600 jobs, full-time positions, and they're in a critical position. They need to meet the core services. And so we have to fight to get these hiring freeze and attrition reversed. And then we also have to fight to get more staffing from the Parks Department. They're operating from an austerity budget. As we saw, we haven't seen significant growth in the Parks Department's budget in a long time. And we need to make sure that we have community members, community boards, council members, everyone fighting with us to demand that the mayor honor his promise to give us 1% of the city budget for parks. So if you have any questions, I'll take questions. And I'm hoping that you'll support our campaign for 1% and offer us a letter of support.
It was a great presentation.
Are there any questions for Cherie?
Cherie, I do have a question.
Yes.
You mentioned something about this POP program, which is funded by HRA. And in fact, what it does is takes people who are involved with Human Resources Administration of Welfare and gives them positions in the park, gives them jobs. What percentage of these people that you take from HRA, what percentage of those people wind up with permanent jobs?
So the POPs program is a permanent job. It trains them and they maintain these jobs. I don't have the numbers of the conversion into other positions from the Parks Department, but these are full-time jobs.
Do you have
they're not year-to-year jobs. They're permanent jobs.
They're provisional jobs. For as long as the funding lasts, is that what happens?
They're permanent jobs.
Permanent.
Oh, permanent.
Mhm. Good.
Good.
Is the letter of support time sensitive?
The question
What
was,
is the deadline for the letter of support?
We would love to have a letter of support as soon as possible. There's a preliminary budget hearing in March. And so we would love to have all of the community boards. So far, we have about 35 community boards. We're trying to wrap it up as much as possible. So we want to be able to deliver all of these letters of support to the mayor in time for the preliminary budget next month.
And can you give us that date?
The preliminary budget hearing hasn't been scheduled by the city council, but it's required to happen every March. So as soon as we have a date, I could follow up.
Okay. And do you have a sample letter of support or resolution that you can possibly just give us the highlights from, or if you want to share it on the screen so that the committee members can take a quick look and ask you any questions? If you can just give us a few highlights of what you're looking for. If you have that available. If not, then you can just, I believe you emailed me something.
Yeah.
And I can send it out.
So I can share my screen again. So this is from Manhattan Community Board 1. Do you need me to make the
You want
letter
to
bigger?
enlarge it a little? Can you enlarge it a little? And just give us a few highlights, just for the community board
So
members.
they are demanding 1% of the total city operating budget. And they highlight that would mean nearly $1 billion annually, given the Parks Department's at $634 million. They highlighted that New York City parks have suffered decades of reduced funding and they're operating on a skeletal staff. They gave a little bit of the history of it, and then they talked about the hiring freeze over the last 2 years. And they then highlighted specifically Lower Manhattan and how it impacts their community, because for Lower Manhattan, they're experiencing an open space crisis and they don't have a lot of parks. The parks mostly in Lower Manhattan are along the waterfront, except for City Hall Park. And so they just highlighted a few of those things.
Okay, so then we would need to highlight how the funding or decrease in funding impacts our parks, and Community Board 9 is what we would need then to highlight.
Yes.
In the letter. Okay. All right. Are there any other questions, especially community board members, because we'll have to pull together a letter of support. Go ahead.
Hi, this is April. I'm sorry if I missed this, but what does New Yorkers for Parks recommend if someone asks, where do you suggest the budget, where this additional funding comes from? Like, where would you suggest pulling it from? Do y'all have a stance on that?
It's not about pulling it from someone else. There is additional funding that the mayor did find, but there are budget issues, right? And so we do recognize that there are budget issues, but the Parks Department, we can't have them continue to operate on this kind of austerity budget. We saw what the parks looked like during COVID, and for all of us who grew up in the city, we remember what it looked like in the 90s. Remember what it looked like in the 80s. Some of us remember what it looked like in the 70s and beyond. We don't want to go back to that. We want to make sure that our parks are well maintained, that they are safe, that people feel safe. And having clean parks is part of that perception of safety. And having more staffing, PEP officers are really critical, to supporting our parks. And in Harlem, there's a limitation on the amount of PEP officers they have. And all 4 historic parks in Harlem have to share PEP officers. So we want to make sure that we're creating opportunities, that the Parks Department is funded adequately. And when it comes to the negotiating the budget, those are the tough decisions that the elected officials and the mayor's office on budget have to negotiate.
Good question. Does anyone else have any other questions?
I guess I have like a follow-up question actually for Karen. Hey Karen, it's April. I'm curious, like being like with Friends of St. Nicholas Park, what have you seen have been like issues regarding like things that weren't able to get done because of the budget? I know Matt mentioned we weren't able to get the stairs done in St. Nicholas Park. Are there other examples?
I mean, we have, I think, acute needs in terms of maintenance and operations as well as capital. We mentioned capital. We have, real, as we've talked about in the budget, priorities, for playgrounds and the closed stairs, and then just maintaining the existing stairs. And then in terms of operations and maintenance, gardening staff is just a huge issue in St. Nicholas Park. I guess, Matt, I don't even know if we currently have a gardener in the park assigned.
We do. Jeff is back, so
Okay.
which is great news. He finished up his forestry internship, so he's back, which is great news. But St. Nicholas Park is a 23-acre park with one gardener, so you
we
can
have
do the math.
Yeah, and so even with the one, which we didn't have for a while because he was out, but on a different training, but there are just huge problems maintaining, modest amounts of garden beds, and we volunteer a lot for that. But another critical problem that isn't getting addressed are just invasive weeds, which is a problem, just generally for our ecosystem and parks health generally, and that's a big problem as well. So there's just all kinds of acute needs. I'm happy to help work on any language you guys want to put in.
Yeah, that would, and anyone from cards, and especially our friends, people, please email us, any suggestions or language or specific projects that we can highlight in this letter of support. That would be very helpful, I think. Go ahead, Corey.
Is there a version for like community leaders, tenant associations, block associations? I know on my block, they'd be willing to sign, like a petition. Yeah, a petition, or if there is a document for community folks to sign on.
There is. I can forward it. If you want to drop your email in the chat, I could send it directly to you, but I'll send a follow-up email with the community board so that they can share it.
And if there's a link to the petition, Charisse, can you drop it in the chat before the end of the meeting?
Okay.
And we can disseminate it that way also. And of course, please follow up with an email to me, and we'll try to, get the community board also to disseminate that information out to our community members. Good question, Corey. All right, because I don't have the calendar in front of me, but we would have to, our March community board, general board meeting. And I just want to, that's why we're asking the question in terms of time sensitivity. I'm guessing our general board meeting is probably March 21st.
Even if it's after the preliminary budget, we still would appreciate it. I mean, we can still deliver the letters, even if it's after the hearing. So
Okay.
I appreciate
All right,
it.
but we'll be in touch. Okay. Thank you so much. And nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too. Thank you. I'm going to drop the links in the chat. Then I'll follow up.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Thank you.
All right. Next we have Coda Alliance. Hi, do you have a presentation?
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Okay, is your person online?
Yes, he's here.
Let's see his name. Michael.
That's Michael Madsen.
Michael Madsen.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can now give you co-hosting capabilities.
I do believe I have them. Thank you very much.
And if I may, I could just introduce Michael.
Yes,
and the
I was
Coda
gonna
Alliance.
ask you.
Yeah.
Janet, if you could please give us a little introduction about your organization and
Yes.
introduce your project.
Yeah, thanks very much for having us here. We also have Scott Oliver and Margarita McGrath, also from the same architect firm, Norwood. So I'm Jana Renstrom, and I'm the founder and president of the Coda Alliance, which is a nonprofit for gender equality and women's empowerment, founded in 2015. And 2 years ago, we acquired this building at 43 St. Nicholas Place. We focus on the two pillars of women's advancement that we think are crucial: economic empowerment and health and wellness. And so we started by offering classes and courses in upskilling in digital literacy and financial learning. And then last year, we also developed some arts programming for West Harlem women artists. And now we're expanding into health and wellness programming. And we do this by collaborating with local organizations with similar missions. And we welcome members and partners, both individual and institutional. Because our house is in need of renovations, when we can get those done, we will reach more people, expand our programs, and it will make us more sustainable. And the plans that we have focus, number one, on fire safety, meaning addition of a second exit through the roof. Secondly, energy efficiency, and thirdly, ADA accessibility, while preserving as much as possible of the historic features. So I'll let Michael take it from here.
All right, thank you very much, Jana. Yeah, so I'm just going to get started where she has left off with the project goals. So as she has been saying, our goals for this renovation are to reopen the former central doorway, to create an accessible entrance in this facade where there is not currently an accessible entrance, and also to provide a second means of egress as required by code, which in this case will be to the rooftop. So I'm just going to jump in with some context quickly. This building is in the Hamilton Heights Sugar Hill Northwest Historic District, and we can see our location on St. Nicholas Place. Within that district here, we're on the eastern side of the district. We have some historic photos here. The building was developed in the later years of the 19th century, around 1895, and we can see a photo on the left taken around the time this development was completed. This building was one in a grouping of 8 townhouses that was developed at this time together. And then on the right, we see some tax photos. The center image is of our unit. It's number 43 St. Nicholas Place. And at the right, we're seeing unit 51 further down the block in the same development for some additional historic context. Here we see some present day photos of our building. We're looking at it from the south on West 152nd Street to the left. And then we're kind of rounding the corner and seeing the front facade from St. Nicholas Place towards the right. So scope of work, this is directly in support of our goals to make the building accessible to the public and also egressible, safe to occupy. So with scope item number 1, the entry renovation, we will be proposing a door at the center opening, which will be an accessible width. That door opens onto a vestibule, which is dropped down to grade and which permits access to a planned elevator at the service core of the building, which will make the public floors fully accessible to CODA visitors. With the bulkhead scope item, we are proposing a stair up to the rooftop to meet egress requirements. And that stair is above the existing building stair. Currently, we only have a ladder access to the roof, so we're hoping to upgrade that for egress. We can see those areas of work here. So in image A, we can see the access hatch for the ladder, which we will be replacing with a bulkhead and a stair. The existing stair hall for the building is on the south side of the building, so we will see our bulkhead from the street. In view B, we will be able to see that bulkhead over the south party wall. And then in image C, we are seeing the entry facade, and this is where we are proposing our accessible center doorway. So I'm going to jump in with some additional context. This is, we're starting scope item number 1, the entry discussion. Here we have a photo of the full block, or a montage of the full block, I should say. It's designed in the French Northern Renaissance style, excuse me. And so we have, the architecture of this block is quite notable. We have lots of very distinguishing features. So at the roof particularly, we have this kind of compositional assemblage of different roof forms, like the projecting cross gable at our unit and 55 further down the block. We have an engaged tower. We have these full height and partial height bow fronts and bay facades that create this very rich language of projecting elements and whatnot at the roof. And then down at the entry level, which we will be talking about going forward shortly here, we have this this heavy rusticated base which spans across all of the units and which ties them together, as well as the strong logic of primary entrances or primary apertures in the facade, having these arched tops, arched openings, and then secondary openings like the service doors are lower, kind of squatter, narrower, and they have squared off openings. So in studying how we were going to propose an accessible door in a facade that doesn't allow for one, we had done some block pattern studies of the block to understand how the architecture, the openings are organized, what the order of each facade is like. And originally we had thought we might propose to widen the service door, but that actually kind of subverts the order of the openings on our facade and blows the service door out of proportion in comparison to the other service doors on the block. So rather than doing that, what we are proposing and what you see here is to restore the primary opening for the building to the center location, but actually to drop that opening down to grade to make it an accessible doorway. We do also propose to replace the service door, which is currently our only entrance, with a glazed unit, which will match our proposed primary entrance unit, as well to replace the window on the side with a more historicizing wood window.
And Michael, can I just ask that as you continue to go through the presentation, if you can use the cursor to highlight what you're speaking about? Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
That will be helpful. Okay. Thank
Sure
you.
thing. Sorry about that. So this is that center entry door that we are dropping down to grade to provide an accessible entry. We are replacing the existing door over here, which is this green door with a security grille, with a glazed unit to match the proposed center entry. And then the side window here, we are replacing with a historicizing wood window as well. We do scale back the iron fence that currently wraps the facade to make those proposed doors more accessible to the public. And we also have some lighting upgrades and some signage, which can be approved at the LPC at staff level. Some more detailed sections through each of the apertures on the facade. What we're doing at each of these openings is removing the non-historic window, removing the metal paneling at the jamb extensions, and removing the non-historic security grille, which has been installed at each opening, and installing in the place of that a new window or door unit. So this is that side window, and again, we're installing here a simulated double hung window from Icon with an arched top to speak to our proposed entry door. This is our proposed center entry. So removing the same things as previously with the side window, the grille, the non-historic jamb extensions and metal paneling, the non-historic window, and installing here actually though, in addition to doing that, we are removing the non-historic raised windowsill, which is here, the non-historic infill, the block infill here, and then even dropping that opening down to grade along with the new vestibule floor to create that accessible entry. And then at the side door, the current entry door, we're removing that door again and replacing it with a glazed unit that speaks to our proposed entry door at the center. Here, I'm going to kind of skip through these. Here we just call out with pictures what we are removing and what we are leaving intact. So we're not modifying any of the detailed masonry at the heads of each of these openings, just taking out the windows themselves and the metal paneling that's not historic. Here we have a detail, section details through our door assembly. This is for our center door. So here we have the leaf and then a side light here. Here we have the door opening here, the actual door leaf here, and then a lunette window proposed above, which speaks to our side window.
And Michael, I'm just going to interrupt you again for a second. We have a question here. We just need more clarification on what specific items are required from LPC to have community board review. So if you can just highlight what it is that you're seeking specifically from the community board that cannot be approved at staff level. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So if you could just highlight for the committee members exactly what requires community board approval from what would only require a staff level approval.
Okay, so at the LPC,
As you're going through, just highlight for us, because some people are more knowledgeable than others, so
okay,
this is also a learning experience.
yeah, so,
Okay.
oh, sorry. With the facade here, our signage and our lighting can be approved at staff level. The doors and the window, I believe, are what is up for review. Jumping forward, this is, again, just calling out at that side window what we are removing: the metal cladding, the non-historic cladding, the non-historic window, and the non-historic security grille. These are called out over here. And we have details here existing on the left. We have really thin aluminum profiles right now. And in the center, our proposed head and sill details. We have a thicker historicizing wood window. It's a simulated double hung from icon window. And just detailing here the jambs for that window. And now we are moving into our next scope item, which is the bulkhead. We took a look at some other blocks in the neighborhood to understand how they develop. And what we see with blocks that were developed around the same time period as ours in our historic district and in neighboring historic districts is, as far as block typology is concerned, we have relatively uniform scales mid-block, and the blocks are usually capped by flanking units, which are taller, a little larger in scale, often apartment houses, or sometimes apartment houses. And these flanking units present very finished faces to both streets and kind of conceal the infill nature of the block. And so at our block, we have a sort of anomalous condition where the neighbor to our unit, unit 41 is the neighbor to the south. We see this anomalous, like low two-story commercial structure. And the effect of that, which we saw earlier and which we are acknowledging now, is that our party wall is exposed to public view. That is seen down here. So we are proposing a bulkhead to be developed right in this area here, and it will be visible from the public. So we studied rooftop accretions in the neighborhood to understand if there's a precedent for these types of bulkheads, and we just have some of those called out, or some of those shown here in images that I will flip through. Different types as well occur in the neighborhood, so we'll see some of those in these upcoming slides. And so we're studying these just to ensure that our bulkhead is similar in scale, but our goal here is we have been striving to develop a bulkhead which is a little more sensitive to the architectural fabric that it exists upon. It's consistent with the logic and scale of a rooftop accretion, but is a little more in tune with the architectural context. So here we have the plan of that bulkhead. The proposed plan is shown on the right here. It's highlighted in red. It's roughly 13 feet by 12 feet. And it is figuring on the south elevation. This is the south direction, so you can see where it's sitting on the south party wall. Here we have building sections. So proposed are below, down here. We can see that the bulkhead is situated directly above the building stair. So from an egress point of view and from a building planning standpoint, this is the most feasible place for us to include it. Jumping forward, we can see in these elevation drawings here, the proposed is on the right, how that bulkhead is visible over the south facade, the party wall facade of the building. Here we have just a rendering, a photo on the left showing the existing conditions, and a rendering on the right showing what this bulkhead is proposed to look like. And some additional views from the back as well that give us a better idea of the actual geometry of this bulkhead. It does, as we can see, have two roof pitches. The lower one, which is this one, pitches down towards the front of the building. And we have borrowed, if we're going back to the south elevation, we have borrowed the geometry of the existing roof of the building and kind of co-opted that to develop our bulkhead. So it sort of is speaking to the existing roof form. And then the upper roof is this one here. It slopes down to the north, and that is pitched at 2.4 in 12, that's the minimal slope required to avoid triggering requirements for guardrails or parapets, which would add additional bulk and height to the bulkhead.
Michael, can you just pause for a second? We have a question. Karen, do you have a question related to something that you just saw in the presentation?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Go ahead with your question, and then I'll ask if there are any other additional questions at this point, because we're just a little bit halfway through this presentation.
It's specifically about this bulkhead. I just, what is the actual purpose of the bulkhead? Because I thought it was you were gonna say mechanical, but it looks here like it is creating an egress to an outdoor space that doesn't otherwise exist.
Yeah, so the purpose of the bulkhead is it is a stair bulkhead, so it is largely occupied by the staircase up to the rooftop, and the purpose is to provide egress and also access to the roof. Egress for safety, to meet fire code, but access so that the space could be used as a programming space for CODA as they're hosting public events going forward.
Wait, can I just clarify? Are you suggesting that it's a safety code to require to have access to the rooftop through the bulkhead?
The code requirement is to provide a second means of egress. We are proposing this bulkhead to be that second means of egress. I actually don't show it in the presentation very well, but the rear yard of the house is fully enclosed by retaining walls. Maybe if we go back to this plan, it doesn't show it well here either. But it's not possible to egress to the street from the rear of the house. So with that in mind, really our only means of providing that egress is to the roof and out from that direction.
Does that answer your question, Karen?
I understand the answer, yes. I'm a little surprised that rooftop access to a rooftop area is required for code, but
I'll give the architect an opportunity to explain that entering the building, you can only enter through the front right now, is what I'm hearing him say. And there's no way other than the front door. You go to the back door, through the back door, it's an enclosed area and no accessibility to get to the street from there. The only alternative is through the roof in order for fire safety requirements.
Yes, that's correct.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead with your question.
Is that the area of which you're talking about is a historical area that is an old village that was stated as a historical area of a compound of buildings that they called it a certain village or something like that in Harlem? That was established by a group of people who own those buildings? What is that property?
If you could just provide the address again and the cross street, and then I'm gonna take a question from Liz.
I think you should check that.
Because this is right across the street from where you live.
So thanks, Michael, for the presentation. I think I understand the two components and why they're not being approved at staff level. So I have questions for both of them. For the bulkhead, this bulkhead could, at least from a plan, could easily push back so that it couldn't be seen being abutted next to the adjacent property. What is the reasoning behind not moving it back to avoid to be next to the adjacent building?
Yeah, from a building planning standpoint, this bulkhead is occurring directly above the existing building stair, so we're trying to preserve that footprint and avoid taking up space on other floor plans that could be used for other programming. So we can see how that stair relates to the stair below in this section here.
Do you have a study of what that would look like to hide the bulkhead stair next to the adjacent building?
I don't have a study of what that would look like that I could show for you here today.
Okay. What are the materials of the opening at street level?
The materials are wood, so flipping back, these are all wood doors and windows. So this is a wood simulated double hung window from Icon, and these doors here are wood units from Icon as well. The specific line escapes me right now.
That's fine. And I assume wood is what the original fabric of those openings was then.
Yes, they were originally wood doors.
Good, thank you. That's perfect, thank you. Just wanted to make sure they're not aluminum.
I see. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, now, are there any other questions? Like I said, we're about halfway through, so now is a good point to go. Oh, yeah, I forgot.
I just wanted to ask, what was the height on the bulkhead? I think I missed that.
Oh, good question.
The bulkhead is just about 9 feet 7 inches above the. Oh, I have gone past it in the wrong direction. Sorry about that. The bulkhead is about 9 feet 7 inches taller as measured from the existing parapet wall. So at the going to our detailed sections, at the north side, we're looking at just about 7 feet, well, about 7 feet 2 inches at the lowest point for the ceiling inside, and then growing to 9 feet 7 at the party wall. And we have the taller side on the south at the parapet wall, so that we can have this gutter, which you can see in our renderings here, on the inside of the building, and that's a safety concern with cleaning and maintaining that gutter if it were to be at the lot line.
Do you have a sight line drawn from the sidewalk?
I'm sorry?
From the sidewalk, which would be.
The sight lines, yes, you have
The
the
sight line,
they're coming.
They're coming.
Okay, all right.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Go ahead with your presentation, because this might answer your question.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go ahead, we'll continue on the next 10 slides or so.
All right, thank you. So this is just an overview of the new windows that are proposed in this bulkhead. None of them will be visible from the street, save for window P, which does not interfere with the original party wall facade. So just moving forward to this, the visibility studies of the mock-up we can see here. We are going to start at the intersection of 150th and West 150th, excuse me, and St. Nicholas Place, and walk up towards our building, which we can see here called out in blue, as well as the location of the proposed bulkhead. So just starting, this is from 2 blocks away at West 150th and St. Nicholas Place. The bulkhead is called out at here. And then progressing forward towards West 151st Street. So we're kind of seeing it in the context of these taller buildings to the north and south. And then as we get closer to West 152nd Street and the street corner that our building sits closest to, we're seeing that it speaks to the existing geometry of the roof, and in its finish color, it reflects the existing finish color of the roof. And it does recede behind the front roof as we get closer to the front facade of the building on St. Nicholas Place. It is not visible from directly in front of the building on St. Nicholas Place. It does recede behind that front gable roof. And here we are seeing the elevation from the side. The taller neighbor to the south west does preclude it from view as you move further west on West 152nd Street. So that is the bulk of the presentation and our 2 main scope items, the entry renovation and the bulkhead. We do have energy upgrades, which include window replacement work, which can be approved at the LPC at staff level. We've included that in an appendix here if you'd like to take a look at that as well. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
And what type of permit, if you could just let us know that you're applying for with LPC?
I'm sorry, what type of permit?
The permit type, and any issues that LPC has with what you're currently proposing.
Yeah, I think Scott would be the best person, Scott Oliver here at NERF as well, would be the best person to answer the question about the permit type. So I'm going to loop him into the conversation.
Yeah. Actually, I don't quite know what the exact permit type is, because most of the landmark work our office has done has been, I think it's a certificate of no effect, and that is usually staff level work.
This would be a certificate of appropriateness.
Yeah, maybe it would be, and yes, it definitely, the scope of the work requires that this will be presented to the full LPC, because it's because of the work visible from the street, both at the front facade and at the roof. So I guess it's certificate of appropriateness, but yes, this goes to the full Landmarks Preservation Commission board at some point. As to what we're presenting tonight has been reviewed with the staff at Landmarks over the last 2 or 3 months, and
has it been approved pending community board support?
it has been approved to the point where this is a full presentation for review by the community board, and the understanding is that whatever we are presenting to you should be what we will present to the Landmarks Preservation Commission. So unless, right, I don't believe that, Michael, there's any alterations we would want to do. The idea is that this is a presentation common both to the full commission as well as the community board.
Yes, that's my understanding.
It's not really in development. This is what we're going to show.
Liz, can I get an understanding?
Go ahead, Liz. No, I say, Liz, go ahead.
I don't have any issues with the ground level door entrances, the bulkhead. I would have really appreciated to see an alternative proposal to hide it.
Well, we can ask for that.
It's the gap on that bulkhead is really
I just
bad.
feel like there's an opportunity to hide it, and like, I get it, like, it's not terrible, but there was an opportunity to hide it, so why not show and explain? I mean, I understand your explanation of keeping it in line, but what sort of Herculean issues would be caused by hiding it?
Good question.
That's all.
Could I say a comment here? I think that, and Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that it would eat up so much of the existing space on the 4th floor that it would limit what we can do there. It would kind of waste like a room that we can otherwise use for other purposes.
Yes, it's the transfer from the existing stair alignment across to, let's say, the north wall would eliminate a lot of core support services because in that part of the building, support spaces like bathrooms, closets, mechanical area, because essentially the building is laid out where they have the what we call the wet side of the building to one side. And so it's a loss of very important floor space at that point. And so that's one reason we have kept it, the main reason we've kept it to the south. And of course, yeah, that's the reason. We really do need the space to support the ambitions of CODA. And it's just very pragmatic. What light comes through that small window and the windows to the north also has an opportunity to penetrate deeply into the building over the existing stairwell. So it's also an enhancement of the interior environment of the building as well.
So if the stair goes up from ground level to the 4th floor, you're gonna have a landing there so that square footage isn't operable. And then if you move the stair over to hide it, then you're gonna lose that square footage to go up from the 4th floor to the.
Yeah, essentially that top floor we lose 30-40% of our space just to migrate over to the opposite side.
What is the overall square footage of it's 20 by?
It's about 1,000 square feet per floor.
Okay, can I speak?
Go ahead.
I live in that neighborhood. I take my laundry there's a laundry mat.
Yeah, we use that.
On the other side of on the corner, we're talking about St. Nicholas Place. On the corner, there is a gas station. Across the street from that gas station, we're still talking St. Nicholas Place. there is, you go downstairs and there is a laundromat, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, where is your building in comparison to that laundromat? Is it on that side, the same side of the street?
Same side of the street and right across the street from 152nd Street.
Okay, so we're still talking Sugar Hill.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and Sugar Hill is where we take a lot of pride in the land and the architecture of the land, of this area, of the area that we live in. And so are you talking about changing the outside other than the buildings that already exist, where these people within the next block had built, taken their money and built their own town, or restructured and taken empty vacant buildings and restructured those buildings? Are you talking architecture different than what already exists? Is that what we're saying? I'm asking, on the outside of the building, are you trying to put something different than what already exists in the neighborhood?
He's gonna change a window to a door
I'm talking about
on the
this.
ground floor, and he's gonna add a bulkhead for egress.
What is the bulkhead for egress? Is that something that goes outside of the building?
Outside. Yeah.
That was the question.
On the roof.
On the roof.
But you're not making any changes to the facade or anything. Yeah.
No.
Right, no, that is,
Changing the door.
and,
The window.
Mike, if you wanna just show the picture again on the screen of the bulkhead for one of our committee members that is requesting additional information.
yeah.
And while he's showing that, just for my own clarity, your question to them was, you presented this to the board and it has been approved, and you're here now because you just need the letter of support or the approval, you don't have a date. That hasn't happened as yet, but you, based on your presentation to us, you would like a letter of support because it meets all the requirements.
When she says board, she means the staff level at Landmarks Preservation Commission.
May I speak? Because I'm going
Let me answer this question and then we'll come to you.
Yeah.
Do you want to answer that question, Scott?
Yes, this has not yet been presented to the full Landmarks Preservation Commission, you know.
We know that, but
Right.
at the staff level, has the staff members, have they approved so far your drawings? And it's, and if we were to go to the website, it would show that you have a hearing date set up.
I
Yes, we
believe
have-
they're trying to schedule us. Have they reconfirmed that?
When is the hearing date?
Well, it depends on whether the full Community Board 9 can take it up at the next meeting.
Okay,
In that
you
case-
don't have a date yet.
No, we don't have that. No, because first it's here.
No,
Right,
I
you guys have to
understand
approve it
it,
first.
but part of what we ask is we want to know how time sensitive it is and when you need the letter. And that's, a lot of times it's based on, you've already received approval at the staff level pending approval from the community board.
Correct.
Okay?
Yes.
So, we'll go ahead to the next question. Go ahead.
So the process is that they show to the community board. Then there is a scheduling committee. The community board does not have to approve.
Yes, we
Okay,
understand.
so, they will schedule after this. Usually, and I don't know how your community board was, I sat on the community board landmark committee for about 20 years.
Right.
So, we usually do this in our executive meetings.
Right.
I don't know your process here, and.
That's the next step to
The
get it
executive
on
board
the.
meeting would write their letter of approval or whatever changes that the landmarks committee.
Pending.
Right, so this is an
Yes.
open forum now, so what we need to get from the community is any suggested changes so that we know what to write in the letter. Okay, and then after we get all your questions and they answer all of your questions and we make suggestions, then we decide whether or not we're going to approve it. So go ahead and ask your questions and then I'm going to UN, has her hand up.
So my question is, and I didn't know you were doing this tonight, so I don't have all the numbers in my head.
That's okay.
But I think generally speaking, I think for bulkheads, just for egress, they do not need to be as high. I think it's about 7 feet 6 inches on, that's the minimum height for bulkhead. If you were just using this for egress for fire and not for roof activities, could you do a lower bulkhead? Good question.
The fact that it's used for activities is kind of like a second discovery to us, because the driver was the fact that it's a 4-story building. Even with older codes, this exit had to happen. But from our code homework, if you have a flat roof and you have a distance of over 22 feet fall, then you must have a guardrail. Now, 3 sides of this bulkhead is less than 22 feet. The fact that it's adjacent to what is currently a large vertical height, where our concern is that a bulkhead would be required, a railing would be required. That's another 3 foot 6 inches. In addition, we would be, if you don't slope the roof, you would be asked to put a green roof up there as well, because of the new local law 97. And that would require protection in order to maintain it. So what we established is if you incorporated 2.5 per foot slope, you are alleviated from the requirement to create a bulkhead, and you don't have to do the green roof. And the resulting height is actually less bulky than doing a flat roof with roof protection. So this, and then the subtle slope, lack of railings allows us to reduce the bulk and give it the sculptural form that relates to the angles that you see with the existing roof. So what we've done is we've attempted to solve this from a code, safety, and aesthetic perspective, so it's a cohesive solution.
I have an additional comment, if I may.
Go ahead, 1 second. Ewan, go ahead with your question.
You and your meeting.
Yeah, it's a comment and I guess a question. I have a question, but I was going to suggest that if you could go back to the black and white photo of the original design of the building, that from the street, from the St. Nicholas Place view, that it might clarify and some of the issues and questions that are being brought up by a couple of the board members, so that they can see what you're asking is to restore the main entrance, which is currently a half window, but you want to bring back that main entrance, if you could just point it out, to the house.
Yeah, so we are looking in the center photo here. We're looking at the historic center entry. So it did historically have a stoop. It was raised about, I think, 32 or so inches off of the sidewalk at grade. So we were proposing to return the entry door to the center location, but for accessibility, we are proposing to drop the door down to grade. So we would not have this stoop here as we see historically, only the entry in the center opening.
Right. And why is that half fence necessary? It adds nothing to the aesthetics of the building.
Sorry, the iron fence?
Yeah, it's not historic. So you're removing half of it, and leaving the other half, which is just in front of the window on the left. It makes no sense.
We are thinking a lot of visitors to Coda come with strollers or bikes. So we are thinking by preserving that section of fence, we could give them a place to store those bikes that is sort of sheltered from the street. So that's our intention with preserving that segment of the fence.
Okay. although it's not historic. And I'm curious about something, and there are a few questions about the bulkhead. It's my understanding, because my house and all the houses along my row, there is this there's an egress to the roof. The houses were built, with an, I don't know, a metal or trapdoor or whatever to the roof. So was this house not built with that escape door to the roof? And are you building the bulkhead because you want to enhance? I think that's a question that is being asked over and over again. Is the bulkhead necessary because you want to use the roof for activities in order to expand your programming? The bulkhead is necessary. Because all the houses have a rooftop, egress.
They have a ladder
It's a
right
ladder.
now that
Yeah,
goes.
yeah, a ladder to the roof.
That's what most of the houses have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good question. Go ahead and answer that question, one of the architects, if you can.
Yeah, there is an existing ladder with a hatch to the roof. Yes, we do see these in a number of homes, but when we did our code review, since this would have to be filed with the Department of Buildings, our reading of, because it's an additional story, oftentimes these row houses sometimes are 3 stories and a cellar, and so sometimes a hatch is appropriate due to the height of the building. Even referencing the 1938 code and others, they require full stair to the roof. And the other reason this is triggered is also in the old days, there were fire escapes in the rear of these row houses, and a fire escape would not apply today, because if you use a fire escape into a rear yard, you have to have a dedicated corridor from the back to the front to exit that yard, which would also be problematic, and because it would take valuable space from the interior. But and I'd have to refresh my memory. I don't think you can put in a fire escape today. You can have a fire escape grandfathered, but there is no longer a fire escape there. And I think but I think it's this additional floor that we have that has triggered this. Trust us, we've looked extensively at the code, obviously for life safety reasons, but we're sensitive to the budget for renovation, and so
So
we take this
basically,
very seriously.
I'm sorry, it's already 8:29, we're gonna, there's one addition, and maybe we can finish with that, is that as required, we have built a mock-up on the roof, so you can go by it and look at it. And
It's up now.
it's up now, and you can go look at it. You're welcome to come visit Coda. Just let me know. I'll give you my card, and you can come visit inside as well and see what we do and what it looks like. We love the building. It's great, and we want to preserve it as historically accurate as possible.
I don't have an objection to the bulkhead. I'm just trying to get to the real reason for the bulkhead, because if I were to follow the explanation that was just given, then it would mean that all the row houses with a rooftop hatch, whether 3 stories or 4 stories, that we're not in code compliant. That's basically what you're saying, and we need to have a bulkhead based on today's code. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes. Yeah, and the other thing, are you having railings all around? Because if you're going to have programming outside.
Right,
then we
that
also
is the core issue here. You want to.
Because you have to tell us that there are gonna be railings, if there's gonna be programming outside, then the neighboring buildings have to be aware that this is something that you're proposing,
Right.
because that also is always an issue for this community board in terms of noise complaints and things like that, activity on the roof.
Right,
Whether it's
that's what's
mechanicals
driving
or
this,
people on
yeah.
the roof, it's the people on the roof, because I know in my line, so I have a walk-it out bulkhead, but I'm not permitted to have people on the roof.
Yeah.
Okay, so, it's not.
Yoga,
it's
yoga on the roof.
Yeah, it can't be, it's only for fire access. It can't
Right.
be for people to have activities. on the
Honestly, we haven't even gone there. It's only like, like 400 square feet that is left, if even that.
That's most, yeah, that's most. Once you
So
put a
it's not
bulkhead
very
out
much
there,
anyway.
it's not very much, but
Yeah.
still, that's a sound, a noise issue. Especially when you're gonna say, because that's another thing that the community board, we would have to approve whether or not we would be open to allowing outside activity. If you're only building the bulkhead so that you can have access for people to utilize the roof, that's one thing. But if it's not necessary, then we have to take those things into consideration when we're giving a letter of support.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I think it's the activity that is driving it. And I tell you, you know, with rooftop activity, you have to,
We have to tell you when we gotta move on. I'm sorry, but sorry, Lori.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the next steps with this?
We have to vote whether or not we want to approve a letter of support or not.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
you're not
I need to
voting.
vote.
Okay.
and just, may I just say one thing, Heather?
ahead,
With
you-
rooftop activity, you know, you have to take the concerns of the neighbors into
Yes,
consideration, because on my top floor, when someone is on the roof, I can hear everything
yes.
on my top
And it's the same thing
floor.
with mechanicals, when people are putting mechanicals on the roof.
Did you just make a motion to
I
vote?
make a
Is
motion
there a
to vote.
second?
Yeah,
Yes.
is there a second?
Second.
Wait, do we have a quorum? We have a quorum, right?
We have a quorum.
Yes.
We have a quorum.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and start the vote. And, we need to vote as to whether or not we're going to approve a letter of support at this time, or if we need additional information, someone can also make a motion for additional information, for them to come back to us and let us know, provide with more information regarding the use of the roof, because that's also a big issue for our community board to consider. Or if we need more time, they haven't given us a date yet for a hearing, so it's not as if this is extremely time sensitive. Go ahead.
So, we can separate the two issues. The fire safety is the critical part, because that has to do with code, and if we don't get that, then it severely limits our possibility to do any activity in the building. Any recreational activity probably would be something like yoga, wellness or something, but we don't even have to do that. Like, if the community board says no to that, that's fine. You know, that's not a critical component of what we do. It would be like an additional nice thing to have, but not necessary. The other thing is, we do have a tentative date for LPC presentation on February 27th. But if you need more time, and if you, for instance, want to come by first and see it for yourselves, you know, we can also move that, you know, back.
Did we already make a motion to make the vote?
Yeah, we did. We're about to vote. Okay,
So so that's to approve or disapprove the letter of.
does anyone have does anyone need more time? Does anyone need more additional information?
I need to walk over there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I can tentatively, say yes, but I'm gonna take time.
Okay. Because what's important in the way that we may have to write the letter is we may approve the bulkhead for egress purposes only, not for activity on the roof. And that also may play a part in lowering the height of the bulkhead.
I won't do that. I
So,
don't agree with that. I don't have an issue with activity on the roof.
So LPC is not concerned about activity on the roof.
but the community is, and the neighbors will be.
Okay, well, okay.
And they're concerned about the visual, and that's what we also have, it's visible from the street. So,
So I have a proposal.
Yeah.
Postpone the decision until the next meeting.
Can we make our vote here, cause I live in that neighborhood. Let's hold on a minute.
I think you.
I live in that neighborhood and I'd like this vote, if we
Let's
voted.
confirm the code.
Yeah.
Let's confirm the code. I mean, but
It seems strange to me that landmarks would say this can't be approved at staff level if it's a code. It's a code requirement. So I think we do need confirmation of, if this is being built to code.
Because the other issue that we run into is anytime something that we do to the exterior of our building is going to affect neighbors, then we have to make sure that the neighbors have been notified. And we don't have any indication of that yet.
More than notified, approved of. And I'd like us to go on with the voting. And it being that I live right across the street. Okay, and the fact that that's Sugar Hill, you understand, where we are a working class neighborhood, middle class working people. I'd like the vote to go. Do we approve of giving them a letter of approval or do we disapprove?
Is there anyone who disapproves?
Me.
Is there anyone that's abstaining until additional information, code information?
Yeah, I'm gonna abstain for now, but
So that's more than half of the four.
I didn't see the count.
That's like 4 or 5 people.
Where's our count? Did you see the count?
Abstaining and no.
I do know Robert's rules. Come on, don't do me like
No,
that.
no, I'm not. I'm getting everybody. Okay, so at this point, we're gonna.
I think that they're talking, they're saying more than the committee. Let us say the committee, I didn't hear anybody of the committee say anything.
No, they raised their hands. They did, they've been speaking. So we have,
Okay,
so no, we're.
I didn't see the raise.
We're gonna put this off until the next meeting after giving an opportunity for you all to tour the space.
Okay.
And to code.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the space and we want to get confirmation of the code for the bowl.
Okay.
Okay. Because we had too many extensions and.
Some of the neighbors could.
And we need to notify the neighbors because if you're anticipating, you'll have to send letters or notices or post information so that the neighbors will be able to know that at some time in the future, there will be activity on the roof. Okay.
I'll be over tomorrow.
All her good.
Tomorrow, yeah, no. Yeah, about 10 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, let's move on. Let's see. Okay, Ewan, are you still on? Ewan, if you could just announce your conference, please.
Okay, I didn't hear. Could you repeat that, please?
Yeah, what we've decided to do is we're going to give the community board members and community members an opportunity to visit the space, to view the mock-up. I viewed it. And they need to notify the neighbors about the possibility of outdoor activity on the roof. Okay? And I'm asking you, Ewan, if you could please announce your conference.
Oh, thank you. Right, because this is the last meeting before the conference.
I'm living. As a community activist in that neighborhood, knowing the pulse of the people there, no.
Welcome to free yoga.
No, I teach yoga. Dance and ballet.
All right. Okay, so, yes.
Okay.
Yes, we're continuing.
Oh, God,
But I must say that I'm glad to see that the main entrance is being restored. So we're happy about
The main
that.
entrance is good.
Yeah, the historic
I
entrance.
understood that,
Yeah.
but all the rest of that isn't.
So on March 9th, it's a Saturday. The West Harlem Community Preservation Organization is co-sponsoring a preservation conference at City College, where our co-organizers is the Historic Districts Council. It will be at City College. We're not sure yet whether it's going to be in the Great Hall or in the NAC building. We're trying to wait until the mid-February and make that decision based on registrations. For residents and seniors in Community Board 9, the tickets are $25, but for residents in Community Board 9 and for seniors, there is a discount to $15 for the ticket. It's a full day conference from 9 to 3 o'clock, followed by a walking tour of the campus. And breakfast, a light breakfast and a light lunch will be served, similar to last year's conference. The focus, we continue to focus on the City of Yes, rezoning for economic opportunity. And I know in Community Board 9, we haven't had the zoning for affordable housing yet, but I'm hoping that's one of the topics that will be included in the discussion. We're also will address neighborhood character and cultural identity, and how government programs, sponsored programs, and development may impact those things. At the end of the day, we'll have an advocacy session with all the preservation organizations in the city. It's a round table, people just talking about what the issues are within their neighborhood. So that's one, the conference. Two, I haven't had a chance to contact LPC regarding the West Harlem Historic District and a follow-up review. But yeah, so I will have more next month, because now that the conference is practically, well, it's here, I will have more time to follow up with LPC, but I will be sending them a letter next week asking to schedule a meeting for a second review of their research and what they're proposing for the West Harlem. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Liz, with your question.
Ewan, just a question, have you confirmed any electeds or anyone from LPC staff in attendance?
For the conference, we've confirmed LPC. We're waiting on HPD. Now, here is the thing. I had a conversation with Frampton today because of the problems with the electeds. The March 9th we didn't realize it is SOMA's the SOMA's conference is scheduled, and I was not aware of it. And it was not until I wrote a letter to Vince Bordeaux to do the opening remarks that he responded and said that he would have been happy to, but that he will be in Albany for SOMAS. I always thought SOMAS was just the Dominican Republic. I didn't realize it was also held in Albany. So Cardell wanted to come. I'm waiting for a confirmation from her, but I think most likely, she will not be able to do it. And had we known that this conference happened, is scheduled in Albany on that day, we would have shifted the date. I tried to shift the date today with HDC, but they already have reservations, and we're having tabling there, and there are 15 organizations already committed to tabling, so they thought it would have, it would be just too much trouble to reorganize it. Yeah.
Thank you. Did you have a follow-up?
Just, we'll do a snow dance for March 9th. The big snow is gonna hit Albany though.
No, I don't want that, you see, because last year,
No snow here, just up there.
Don't do that. Don't do that because last year the smoke conditions from Canada really impacted our attendance. We had 250 people reserved, and then the city, declared unhealthy air quality. Don't go out, and only about 100 people came. So.
Thank you, Ewan. Anyone else have any questions? Other questions?
Okay,
yeah, come on.
We have to get out of
here, yeah.
So, you see the notes regarding the discretionary funding and, all the various funding that's available.
Right.
Reach out to us for that. And now we're gonna go with our announcements from, the people who have come here in person. Please make it quick and let us know how we can help you. Is there, I don't see, did you sign your name here?
I did, it's at the bottom.
I don't see
It's Adam
it.
Fields.
Adam Fields. You're up.
Go ahead. Okay, I see it now. Go ahead, Adam. Please, let us know what you're asking for.
Yeah, I've spoken to some representatives from the about the possibility of a farmer's market in Montefiore Plaza. They have indicated that a letter from support from the community board would go along with convincing them that that was a good idea. I am unequivocally of the idea that that is a good idea. And I would like to request a letter of support from the community board for that which it is.
Yeah.
Where is that plaza?
What plaza?
Montefiore.
It's on 137th and Broadway.
That's right by the train station.
There used to be one there before the construction started on the park.
Also, if I may, I've put together a draft proposal for the resolution.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
So if I could-
When are you proposing that you would want this to start up at that location?
As soon as possible. There's no proposed timeline.
Okay.
Obviously, it's February now. They run markets year round. So that would be according to whatever schedule they would determine. The sooner the better.
What organization?
Grow NYC.
Oh, fabulous. I mean, okay. I'd asked them about going to.
Have we had a presentation from Grow NYC?
Yeah, I believe this is the beginning of the process. I'm a resident at Sustainable Food.
Okay. Does anyone need, does anyone want a presentation? We request a presentation.
Yeah. Yes.
They have dozens of farmer markets throughout the city.
And we, at another committee, we recently spoke to a chain of people that are being funded by New York City. In the neighborhoods, there are a lot of farmers markets that are present. So
I think it would be good to ask.
It would be nice to have that one there, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, is it in conjunction with what's going on, or is it going to be?
Let's just get it.
Good point.
Via email.
So, yeah.
And if you have a presentation, send that to us. We will work on the letter of support.
I don't have a presentation, but I can put one together.
Okay.
Access with whoever you're working with at Grow.
Okay, it should be.
Yeah, I've also been in communication with Michael Palmer. Yeah, he's fully in support of this. He helped me draft the resolution.
We should be program that. Yeah, this is very helpful for
That's
this
good,
area.
Yeah, I think so.
Very, and thank you so much for coming, and sorry we didn't, I know there was a little confusion, because I understand that you had sent out an email about getting that, but we didn't get it. Until yesterday or today, I think.
May I have a-
So, go ahead.
Just a quick question, because last year, early last year, I had written to Grow NYC about the possibility of a farmer's market in on Johnny Hartman Plaza. on Saturday, a farmer's market and combined with an artisan and performance. And they told me that they would be in touch early this year. I followed up last year, November, and they told me that there was no funding and they were not doing any new farmers market. And so although I'm glad to hear that there's going to be one at Montefiore Park, I'm just a little bit puzzled that this is happening there when I had approached Grow NYC for Hamilton Heights to have a full-blown farmers market at Johnny Hartman Plaza. So if you could put your email, your contact, so I can copy you in a follow-up email that I will be sending to Grow NYC tomorrow, to find out what's happening to our request and why is this being prioritized over Hamilton Heights. It's been 2 years. It's been 2 years.
The Senior Support Committee just did, we are communicating with New York Groves, as a matter of fact,
Yeah.
For our presentation, and we have a listing of the existing,
We just.
farmers
Flea
markets in
markets.
Community Board 9.
Yeah. So
if you send me an email, which is listed on I'll send you
Right.
the list, okay?
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
And this is one of our initiatives, community gardens and, more, food, farmers market. Go ahead,
There's a lot
Ms.
happening.
Claudette Brady,
Hi.
your announcement.
Yeah, my name is Claudette Brady. I am the executive director for State Parliament. And if you haven't been to the conference that you just talked about, I encourage everybody to go. I was on the board of Historic Districts Council for about 10 years. It's a long time on the advisory board, and it is a really good conference.
And I was at the conference of the Ford Foundation. Yeah, we have excellent.
And I was,
Did you have a specific, and thank you so much for being here, and I hope you come regularly.
So I'm gonna try and make it regularly. I have to do 3 community board conferences, 3 community boards. We had a conversation with, LPC earlier this week, with John Weiss and with Stephen Thompson regarding, violations. So they have now a database which will be public soon and mapping for, LPC violations and violations from DOB. And they will be, sending a monthly list of new violations to, new community, to the community boards.
Great.
Yeah, this was just like.
Great.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Great.
Thank you.
So one of the things that, we're working on with LPC and with Historic Districts Council, is mapping Harlem for what we are deeming at-risk buildings. And at-risk buildings we just lost 3 buildings recently. At-risk buildings, which are buildings that have been vacant buildings, and particularly buildings that have been vacant for an extended period of time. What has been the ongoing problem is that we lost 2 buildings last year. Neighbors have been calling DOB for 13 years on these buildings, and DOB walks by and go, oh, it's boarded up. But the problem is, it looks safe in the front, but there's a pinhole in the roof, and water comes through. We understand what a pinhole and water over 13 years can do to the interior of a building. So one of the things that we are doing now is actually, I don't know how long it's gonna take, walk every historic district, or New York City landmark designated district in Harlem. And trying to identify buildings that are at risk of demolition by neglect. Because that has been a major reason for loss of historic buildings.
And buildings that are currently landmarks.
Currently landmark, yeah.
They recently, if I'm right, I don't know much about this, but they recently were saying that the whole area in Oh,
Yeah,
where
well,
we
you
talking?
is, landmarks is not.
Where is you and Ed?
So
Yeah.
UN is, yeah, UN, so that's the West Harlem survey. It's 135 on the south to 155 on the north.
135.
Riverside Drive to
Right.
the west side
To
of Amsterdam.
Amsterdam.
Oh, to
Yeah.
Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Amsterdam.
Okay, because my
It's
side
a-
is
You
historic.
had walked it with LPC and they said there was about 5 buildings in that entire neighborhood that deserve landmarking. So she's working with them on that. 'cause that's-
Okay, okay.
Well,
And
yeah,
that
Thank
it's,
you.
Okay.
I'm learning.
and it's a state, it's currently a state historic district.
Correct, right, yeah.
Okay, so they're, it's protected by the
Barry was talking
state.
about.
Well, there's state and city designation. That area already has a state designation, and we're
So it-
working with LPC for city, local
I see.
landmark designation.
So the other, one last one, so the other thing that we will be doing, we're gonna do the first one, April 6th, is we're gonna be doing a series of, financial benefits for owners of historic properties, workshops. And we'll be coming back to you guys about this. We're gonna be doing a major one, and then we're gonna be doing maybe district by district, depending on everybody's availability. So pretty much it will be, we're gonna have the State Office of Historic Preservation come down and speak about, homeowner tax credits. LPC, Landmark Preservation Commission, will be coming to speak about, LPC grants for, their income-based grants. And we will have Landmarks Conservancy come, and Landmarks Conservancy are loans and also technical assistance for people. And we're gonna have HPD and some other agencies, talk about their programs. So, the first one is, April 9th. We're looking at this, Harlem State Office Building for that one, because that's gonna be like for everybody. But, once we do the district one.
Yeah. Well, Claudette, you
that.
need to if you would just talk to me, because that we're going to have breakout sessions at the conference, and the plan was to work with LPC with regard to the designation to provide those sessions to the owners in both the Sugar Hill and Hamilton Heights and the potential West Harlem district. So
Okay, so you wanna,
we've got
you
it
wanna-
covered over here.
okay,
Thank you so much. We just have one more announcement, and this is from.
Okay,
Thank you.
I mean, we can work it out together.
We hope to see you.
We got some funding.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Corey, with your announcement.
Yeah, I'll just keep this short. So I will be introduce myself as the Community Board 9 gentleman. My name is Corey Ortega. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was brought on by Kenya Brown, the New York Women's Chamber of Commerce. They received a grant from Small Business Services to revitalize Merchants Association. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm starting from the ground up. Businesses, board, minutes, bylaws, the whole nine. I've attended about 4 committee meetings to understand how I can bridge the Merchants Association, which we have to focus on Superior Plaza, where I belovedly call it MSG Harlem, Montefiore Square Garden, so we don't get sued. And really, a lot of the concerns is to make sure to have it as active as possible. I've met with Michael Palmer about the market, farmers market. We are in support of it. We want to, coordinate whether it's this or more. It's a plaza. Let's use it until we have a problem with scheduling. So that's what I'm doing now. Here are my cards. I know we have to go, so I'll keep it short. And then I took notes and I'll try to incorporate everything. I'll ask for copies. I'm definitely gonna get your contact information. That's it.
Thank you so much. Can I have a motion to, I think we've covered the entire agenda. Can I have a motion to?
I second that.
Thanks for, thank you very much. I put yours in my pocket, I believe.
Heather, can you put the contact info for the Grow NYC in the chat, please?
I didn't